Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of Making Sense with Dr. Stacy. I am Dr. Stacy Betancourt, PhD in Advanced Studies in Social Human Behaviors for those who are joining us for the very first time. Initially, we were going to be recording this from a hotel room while we have a half marathon, but unfortunately the weather had other ideas, so we were not able to make it into Las Vegas. Very disappointed about that, but I'm looking forward to the next event, which is the Los Angeles Marathon coming up soon, and yes, I'll be running at it. All right, enough of me. Let's talk about you. So if you saw the video last posting about divorce part 1, we talked about the fact that I was going to do a small series on this, and I've spent a lot of time this week really kind of meditating on the thought and the process. As a divorce professional, I am used to taking people through the process of divorce, from start to recovery and everything that happens in between. And there are a couple of things that I wanted to talk to you about today, because there's just so much, and divorce can be so big and yet can be so little. It just depends. So one of the things I want to talk about with divorce part 2 is communication. Now, communication transcends all facets of life, right? You can be successful or not successful based on the way you communicate. You can have all the knowledge in the world and all of the expertise in the world, but if you can't communicate, it doesn't equate to much, right? So divorce truly relies on the ability to communicate. And you can even go back further to that, is before you reach divorce, the one thing you want to ask yourself is, what is my communication with in regards to my spouse? That could be a big key factor right there. A lack of communication, it used to be that, and I haven't looked this up recently, so I could be way off base and just making it all up as I go along, but it used to be finances were the number one reason why people get divorced. Now, I'm not going to say that that's not the factor anymore, but what I'm going to suggest is that the communication factor leads to eventual divorce. And honestly, it comes down to not communicating about finances, not communicating about how money should be spent, communicating about the use of credit cards, not communicating about everything in that mannerism eventually is what leads to divorce, whether it's infidelity, whether it is finance, whether it is living separate lives, and your lives are getting further and further apart. These are all factors, and it all comes back to communication. The minute you lose communication with your spouse or significant other, you're destined to not make it. Sorry to say, but that's the reality. So let's kind of move forward with this. Okay, so you've reached the point where divorce has been decided, right? Okay, so divorce has been decided. You have got to remain even more open to communication at that point. And it may benefit you and your spouse to take on a professional, whether it be a divorce coach, a life coach who specializes in divorce, but that little extra training does make a difference. I'm going to tell you that. Initially, I never thought it was needed, but I'll tell you what, it does make a difference. And a divorce mediator. because it may turn out, and I've had cases like this, where they come to me to help them negotiate the divorce. And in the end, they end up realizing that they just needed to talk more. And those are great situations. Those are wonderful situations, because those are situations I can help to fix. My focus changes in working with those clients to get them to get back on track. And then we do a lot of exercises, we do things that go beyond that. But whether or not that's for you, if you've decided the marriage is over, and remember the triangle, please respect what you had at one point, that top being whatever you valued most. Be respectful. But the idea of communication can make such a big difference. Now, this is not a situation where it is a toxic or abusive marriage. In those cases, we are looking at something completely different. And again, I will be putting information in the comments regarding assistance to those who are or may be going through violent, toxic, abusive divorces or marriages. Okay, because you need specific help and someone who is absolutely trained in that aspect. You don't want to just grab anybody, to be truthful. You need a lifeline, and you need a lifeline of someone who really knows what they're doing. So there's that. But what I'm talking about is your standard life. No divorce, or I'm sorry, no violence, no domestic dispute, nothing like that. This is what I'm talking about. A marriage that has just stopped being a marriage. Okay. So even in those marriages, triggers happen, frustrations happen, because your lives have gotten so far apart. Working together can be very difficult, but trust me when I tell you, it's very, very worth it. If you need tools on how to communicate, you can reach out to me. I would be happy to help you. If not me, seek out the help of another professional, because it can make all the difference. One of the best scenarios is working with a client who it begins as a divorce situation, and through the course of working together, they find each other again. And that happens. That really does happen. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen in every case. And there are some couples who are better separate than together. And those situations deserve the respect. And that's what I want to try and do, is be able to get you beyond the marriage into a situation where you can communicate with respect and dignity, especially if you're a parent. And for those of you who are parents, you're just as angry, you're just as frustrated. You have additional frustrations that a non-child family would even conceive. And that takes a different type of respect and a different type of communication, because you do not want the children to ever feel that, number one, they're at fault, and number two, they are the pawn. As a pawn child, someone whose parents loved to stir the pot by using me, it's not healthy. It's never okay. And if you catch yourself doing that, you need to check yourself, because it is not the child's fault. You do not want to put your feelings onto the child, okay? Please, if you need some tools, you can talk to me. And so for now, I'm going to leave you with that idea of communication. It is something that I would like you to meditate on, because again, communication, it's so key in every single thing we do. Communication is the most important thing. So I will put some links down below for you that I hope you'll find useful. If you have any questions, comments, requests, please put them in the comments. I do read them. I do respond. The comments have been very positive, and I'm so grateful to those of you who have been watching. Please let me know if you have any questions. If you need anything, I'm available, and be good to yourself, be good to each other, and you matter. Okay, take care, and I'll see you guys next week.